Hola, welcome. We are a bit late, but starting now with a new session that is titled Data Sovereignty, a New City Challenge, and is going to deal with probably the core of the economy of information, but also a core issue that is going to affect and to impact fundamental aspects of our collective life, that is the new landscape that is generated by new forms of collection, production of data, and processing of data. We are observing incredible and interesting opportunities that are emerging because of this novelty, that the new technologies and the new devices that we utilize in almost every aspect of our life are producing, the data that are producing, and that are impacting the form of knowledge production, that are impacting the way we produce and exchange and circulate goods, are even changing entire industries. They are also, at the same time, generating a lot of challenges in terms of rights, in terms of our freedoms, in terms of concentration of power, and so forth. So there are enormous issues that are raised by this transformation, and we are going to tackle some of these aspects with people that come from the ground, that are practicing these new possibilities, that are facing these new challenges from different perspectives. We are going to have people that look at this transformation from the point of view of the political responsibility in the management of cities, from the point of view of the exploitation of the huge amount of public data that can be exploited also in terms of new possibility of city policies. We are going to see how citizens themselves can empower and can innovate through these possibilities, and we are going to see that also from the point of view of companies that are working in this new area. As you know, we are going to have four speakers that are going to make 4 presentations, and at the end of the section of the presentation we are going to have some time for you to make interventions and to raise questions. As you know, you can do it by the applications that probably you have downloaded in your mobile telephone, or otherwise you can also use the microphone that is on the floor. The first speaker of our session is Marijn Fraanje from the city of Hague. Sorry.
No problem. Good afternoon. I'm Marijn Fraanje. I'm the Chief Information Officer of the Municipality of The Hague. And today I want to give a short presentation about the concept that we're doing as municipality together with the National Bureau of Statistics. It's called the Urban Data Center. In the Netherlands, the National Bureau of Statistics has access to all the government data. So all government agencies are required to hand over their data to the National Bureau of Statistics. And that's basically the reason why I started a collaboration with them, to do it the other way around, get access to their data, and that's just this presentation briefly going to be about. We actually started with a real question, poverty. We wanted to know as municipality, okay, how is poverty characteristic in The Hague? What are the main things that are working there? How is our policy working to prevent poverty? And what can we learn and adjust in combination with the National Bureau of Statistics data? There are actually 4 main benefits why we started as municipality this cooperation. One is the difference of expertise. I mean, the National Bureau of Statistics has a decade-long, 100 years long tradition handling data and doing research. So they are it is their core business to do it. As a municipality, it's a field which is relatively new, especially data analytics. So that's why for us it's very interesting to get their expertise inside the municipality and combined with our own researchers. The second one is combining the data. The National Bureau of Statistics is allowed to do microdata analytics. We as municipality aren't. So in combining their data with ours, we get a better perspective on a general level that we are allowed to see how the municipality is doing on the different kind of fields. And next to that, their data quality, because of the microdata, is of course very high. And the last one, but not the least, they have a lot of experience and they are regulated on security and on privacy. So they're certified and they have all their procedures on privacy and cybersecurity in place. And that is the kind of knowledge that we would like to have in a municipality as well. Basically, we're doing 3 reasons for the cooperation. One is to give accountability to the citizens. So using their data, we want to give accountability for the things that we have been doing as a municipality to the city council, to the citizens, and to other groups involved within the city. Second one is to evaluate our own policies. We have policies in place on different topics and we want to see, okay, are those policies working or not? And if not, what are the things that we have to adjust in our policies to try to make them work? And the last one is more on innovation and predictive analytics. We hoped with combining their data with ours that we can predict certain kind of events or social problems happening in the city. Maybe a strange one, but this graph shows the spendings of the different research departments within the municipality of The Hague. And we estimated that using the data of the Central Bureau of Statistics, we could make a reduction in cost around 3 to 5% efficiency. So it has also another meaning because they are already, as an institute, collecting the data. And most of the times, researchers try to go to private companies and ask their questions to them. And now using the Central Bureau of Statistics instead, we can save money as well on research that otherwise would have been spent outside. It's not only a corporation, but they are literally in the building of the municipality. So there is basically one combined, and that's the urban data physical, where people from the Central Bureau of Statistics, from the national government, are sitting together with researchers from the municipality to tackle different kind of research questions. So they're physically located within the municipality itself. We started this as the municipality of The Hague, but there are 6 other municipalities who have the similar kind of construction at the moment as well. And basically starting this, we also hope to have neighboring municipalities included in it, regional collaboration, educational institutes to really build a bigger coalition around the urban data center of The Hague and the Central Bureau of Statistics. These are a couple of the research examples that we are trying to investigate the coming period. Poverty I already mentioned. A district or area-oriented approach based on big data. We want to further our open data program. We already have it in place, but with the help of the CBS we want to extend it more. We're doing research on sustainability and on resilience and economy. These are just some graphs of the municipality of The Hague as examples. And we actually just launched the 26th of September, so quite recently. These are the director of the Central Bureau of Statistics from the national government and the deputy mayor signing our agreement. One extra benefit that we reached by collaborating with the National Bureau of Statistics is that we went for certification by the World Council of City Data. They are an organization that, based on ISO standards, is trying to get the municipalities putting the indicators on the same kind of level so that you can compare city data between cities. And they're linked to the 17 teams that are related to the municipality and the public government, as mentioned here. Now, you have different kind of levels of certification. If you have all the 100 indicators of city data correct, conform the standard, you get platinum. And that's the interesting thing about the collaboration with the National Bureau of Statistics. They already can provide with one press on the button 52 of the indicators completely correct to their standard. So that made it a lot easier for us to do it ourselves. You can see as well that other municipalities in the Netherlands did the same, but it took them a lot more time. And with the help of the Central Bureau of Statistics, it was for us actually a couple of weeks to do something, but is for other cities a couple of months. This is an overview of cities worldwide who are member of the World Council of City Data and certified. They also link their indicators to the SDGs from the United Nations. So we also use that to see how we're globally doing. And in this way we combine basically the 100 indicators with our own city dashboards. And then with basically the red, the orange and the green dot, we can see how we're doing on the different kind of teams. So it also gives a kind of value from, okay, how are you doing compared to other cities globally? And this is a combination with some graphs from the ground layouts. And here roughly an example. For example, on air quality, you get a measure and a score how the Hague is doing. And then you quite easily can compare it to all the other cities who have exactly the same indicators and are a piece of cake to cross-reference on the same layouts. Here an example between the municipalities in the Netherlands themselves. So Amsterdam, Eindhoven, Heerlen and The Hague, all certified. Any questions?
Not now. Thank you. Thank you very much. And also for being so much on time. Now, the next speaker is Bertrand Serp from Toulouse Metropole.
Hello, everybody. I am Bertrand Serp. I am Vice President of Toulouse Metropole in digital economy, and I am speaking to you about Open Metropole. Open Metropole, which is a program of smart city in Toulouse, and which is a program we began 3 years ago with a vote in Toulouse Metropole for metropolis more efficient about mobility, energy, but also about silver economy and e-citizens. And I want to speak to you this model because this the model which we chose was based on smart data and with a co-construction between startups, between companies, and between also citizens. It's a very, very innovative model, and I want to speak to us about this. 3 parts in my presentation. First, I am going to speak about open data, which is the DNA of Toulouse Metropolises, and then open data in France, and then I will speak about the platform open data you take place in France, in Toulouse, for your services. First of all, in introduction, the sovereignty of the data is becoming the new change for companies, communities, and citizens. Before, data was a hand of technology companies. Today, companies and communities use the data for the new services, and tomorrow, data is fully accessible. Sovereignty is essential. I'm going to explain the open data approach for Toulouse Metropole in the first point. So why open data? We decide to have open data in your metropolises, better coverage of territory, public action transparency, created new services for startup and support local economy, which was very important in Toulouse, improve public services, which is in the metropolis and in the citizen, for the citizens, simplify relationship between services. How we can reuse data, which is most important to know. Open data is freely reusable for every use, including business purpose. Open data license with an open data license, ODBL, allow to duplicate, modify, sale. Obliged to quote the source, redistribute the modification, let the base open. Which public data publishing by Toulouse Metropole? Today, there is a 3,000 data set which are in open data. And we can publish data like, for instance, financial data or citizen data. Now I want to speak to Open Data France. Open Data France is an association which was created in Toulouse in 2030, and it is, I was the president of Open Data since yesterday. I give the presidence of another person from Grenoble. So I'm not today, I'm not today the new president of Open Data, but I was for 3 years a day. Open Data France, an initiative based on several objectives: gather and support local communities involved in openness approach of public data, promote the initiative of the communities with the aim of the open data promotion, pull action and good practices to support European and international scale projects, and represent communities to the international authorities and the civil society. So you make an audit for the minister, Axel Lemaire, which is about the break practices, about the diffusion of the open data on the territories in next year, and then we propose to all the territories in France these best practices with the association. What is the Open Data project in 2018? Classification of open data, platform to test and verify public open data, territories open data observatory, training system for officers and elected, thematic working groups, private actors and academic, and local open data, support small and medium-sized communities. So then we have a platform in Toulouse, which is a public-private open data platform and IoT, and I want to speak just a little about them. Public-private open data platform, one of the 15 main projects of the Smart City program, considered as the foundation of our approach. Data hub for the community and its partners, storage, processing, analyzing architecture consolidated by the powerful security system, a governance, and a technical device enabling interoperability for a real public sovereignty, respecting national and communal legal and administrative obstacles. Then I just want to explain a little schema about our data ecosystem. We can see we have data Toulouse Metropole in the center, which with the CNIL, which in France, Commission Nationale d'Information et Liberté, and the Parliament of France, and the connection with the data of the partners, private and public partners, IoT, and also we can see on this plan the partners and the OT tools, quality data, and intern tools and time and currents and control, and then we have the API and the API on the bottom down. So this is just an example for how you have your planification for open data and platform open data in Metropolis of Toulouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. And now it's time for Martin Cahen from Living Lab in Lyon.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. So I'm Martin Cahen from Lyon. I'm leading the experimentation in this Living Lab. It's a 600 square meter place downtown Lyon where we are experimenting projects on the smart city topic. So smart city is quite huge. We are dealing with mobility projects, energy, and all those projects are using or reusing data. So I want to give some context on data first, because maybe we all know that here in this room, but nobody is like us. We all know the GAFA, so Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple are collecting a lot of data on us, and they are doing a lot of stuff with this data. Google is in my pocket, it's in my computer, it's in my home with my Nest, it's in my, kind of everywhere. It's in my car with my Google car. And they can know many things about it. They can know many things about my data, with my data, many things on me. And here is a screenshot I did this is an analysis of my Facebook data, for instance. So my Facebook data say that I'm probably agnostic, and probably I likely to prefer comfort when buying clothes, and not likely to be influenced by brand name when making product purchases. So that means that we, all those GAFA are analyzing our data in order to understand us better, understand what we want to do, what we will do, and things like this. But the thing is, not only the GAFA has data on us, but the GAFA has a lot of data on us. But every day when you go to the supermarket, for instance, you get this little card, and this little card gives you coupons that allow you to earn like what, €5 a year, not more. But this little card allows the retailer to know how did you pay, what did you buy, in which cashier you went, and things like this. And so they can know if you don't eat gluten, for instance, if you have a disease, and there's for every other companies where you are clients, it's the same thing. The bank knows where you live, if you are on holidays, if you are what's your level of life. The insurance company knows the name of your dog, and the energy. The man who is giving you energy know if you're on holidays, how many people there's in your house, and stuff like this. There's a quite funny example about the retailers. I don't know if you know Target, the supermarket company in the US. So Target is a huge supermarket, and once there were a family of 4, mom, dad, the daughter 16, the boy 12, and they get this coupon from Target saying, "Oh, do you want to buy those products for babies?" And so the dad didn't understand why you get this ad, and he went to see Target. He said, "Okay, what the fuck? Why do I get this coupon?" And Target apologized first, and 1 month later, the dad came back to Target to say, "Okay, I apologize. My daughter is pregnant." So that means that those companies know us better than we know us, and we know our family. The Target knew that she was pregnant because Target has a list of 25 products that if you buy them, you are probably pregnant. That's not the only data. That was just 4 examples of data that the company can have on you. But when you take the subway, okay, you have with your Oyster card or your Navigo or whatever card, you give data to the subway company. Same with energy, health data, and a lot of data. So, as I said before, Google has all this data because Google is in your computer, in your pocket, in your life, in your house, and stuff like this. And if you want to go against Google and to have as powerful tool as Google, you have to do this. You have to break the silo between the companies, because my energy data is at Enedis, for instance, and my insurance health data are, I'm French, so I think it's CPAM or something like this. So we have to break the silo between companies and for the citizen, not for the companies. So I would like to introduce you this project. So this is a Mesinfo project. Mesinfo means my data. It's a project led by Fing. Fing is a think tank in Paris, and we as Tuba are animating this project in Lyon. So imagine a world where this happens, where partners like companies, public authorities share to their user clients the personal data they have on them. They share it on a personal cloud. Like there's a startup who is doing this named Cozy Cloud, and there's a community of users who are building apps on this cloud, because like my grandmother will have access to our JSON data, but she can't do anything with it. So we have a community of users that are developing applications and are pushing those applications on the cloud. Today, we are in 2007, and we have 2,500 testers who have access to their data, and of course, we have like researchers looking and studying the feedback of the testers. Most of the project happen in Lyon Metropolis, so that's why us as Tuba, we are animating this project. And what kind of data you will have access? Today, you will have access to those data. So in the center, it's me, my cloud. I'm the only one to have access to this cloud. The company won't have access to this cloud. The Tuba are in just one direction. So Enedis will give me some energy data, so my own electrical consumption. GRDF, my own gas consumption. The Grand Lyon Metropolis will give me my water consumption. And for instance, we will have also quite qualitative data with Orange, for instance, with my geolocation. Orange know where I am. It's the telecom company, know where I am every time, everywhere. And we will also have the video on demand, the web history, because we have also quant in the consortium, so we will have so many things. So this is a project that is happening now, that started a long time ago, even before the GDPR. But now with the GDPR, all the company will have to find a way to give back the data to their user. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Martin. And now it's Andreas Benz from Deutsche Telekom.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And now for something completely different, I would say, because it is not really different, but there is a slight different aspect to what I would like to present, what we have heard before. Before we heard what is going to happen with data when it is collected, when it is in databases. Part of my presentation will be also how does this data get into these databases, and how can we prevent, or can the city prevent, that data that is collected by the city is not going astray even before we can protect it. Data security is in principle the question how to exchange data safely and reliably, and how to deal with also potentially unreliable data. If we think of controlling devices, controlling critical infrastructure with data, because a city has to cover several smart domains, not only the citizens itself, but a lot of domains that in the end all require reliable communication, and some of them touch really critical infrastructure like the energy sector, like emergency response, like water supplies. Now, communication for a long time was, and being part of a communication company, there was always the complaint, hey, it's too expensive and you do not offer the right types of communication. Part of that was definitely true, but this was due to technical evolution, I would say. There is an exciting new technology out there, exciting not only because I'm here as a representative of a telco, but exciting because it is really groundbreaking and addresses a lot of topics that smart cities needs. Narrowband IoT is designed to serve billions of devices, not only thousands of devices or 100,000s of devices. The basis of that technology is definitely that the Internet of Things can be provided with communication. One of the major questions was always how to get deep indoor penetration. The ones of you that have been in contact with data collection, you know all that hassle, all that fuss about gateways that have to go in between. You have certain communication lines that can go deep into the basement of a house, but then to get it onto a mobile network, for example, you need a gateway in between, so additional infrastructure that costs a lot of money and management effort. On the other hand side, there was the requirement that sensors should be out there that actually can last for years, for decades even, and yeah, this has to be driven by batteries because they are out there in the field. You want to bring them, for example, let's say into a park where you don't have access to power, or if you want to have parking sensors, for example, in the ground, in the asphalt, you also need battery-powered devices. So low energy consumption was always one of the requirements. One of the biggest requirements was low cost, because if you want to bring out sensors like birdseed somewhere into the environment, then it cannot be that each and every sensor costs 100 euros and more. So low cost was one of the requirements. High security, another one. So the data should be secured and reliably transported. There is, of course, something that is still missing in narrowband IoT, which is definitely the holy grail, the combination of cellular, fixed networks, Wi-Fi networks. This is something that narrowband IoT can't do right now. Also high data volumes. It is for IoT things, so sensor data should be transported, not videos in high definition or high quality. This would also still be an open requirement. And also, one of the downsides, narrowband IoT does not bring low latency. So you can have up to 8 seconds latency in a data communication. But for temperature sensors, for example, for parking sensors, 8 seconds is absolutely acceptable if you look at the other advantages that you have. However, there's another technology at the doorsteps, 5G, the 5th generation network. Some of you might ask yourself, well, okay, this is again the next round in the very same game, but I can assure you that this is a complete new, different game. Because especially the point end-to-end seamless connectivity is something that is based on what we call software-defined networks. This means the hardware of the networks is shared amongst all the applications, and the network itself is defined only in software on top of that. This allows that we create also networks for really critical infrastructure. So, for example, the police force, the fire department, or the power supply company can create a network of their own, completely highly secured, on the very same infrastructure. This means sharing infrastructure, sharing cost, and reducing cost. And also, by providing this highly secured infrastructure, this is called network slicing, you create one thing which is absolutely inevitable if you have to deal with critical infrastructure, which is security. And security, as you see here, Bruce Schneier said, it's not a feature that you can reach, it's a process. So it's a fight that you have to fight every day. And as Richard Clarke once said, if you spend more money on coffee than on IT security, in the end you will be hacked, and you deserve to be hacked. So if you look at us as Deutsche Telekom, we successfully, and 3 years ago the number was completely different, we defend our infrastructure at the moment against 1.4 million external attacks every day. And smart cities will have to face similar challenges if they want to operate networks on their own. So this is also what brings a carrier-operated network to the table. Now, another point, smart city data. Is that really the gold mine as everybody sees it? Data is, and this is my statement, not the currency of smart cities. It is semantics. This means creating new meaning out of data. And how do you create new meaning out of data? By data analytics. You might have heard already descriptive analytics, so just describe what has happened out of huge amounts of data. but the evolution of data analytics is already far ahead. The next step in line was diagnostic analytics. Why did it happen? Find out the reasons for what you have seen, but also predictive analytics. What will happen? In the industry, for example, this is a very important thing, predictive maintenance, so knowing when a device will fail. This is also very important for cities because they operate a lot of critical infrastructure like pumps, like electrical power plants, like generators. When they know that these devices will fail in the short-term future, they can do repairs prior to a critical failure. But the next step is prescriptive analytics. How can we make it happen? This means how can we shape what we see in order to really create something based on that analytics. Let me give you one example. If you have, for example, historical data about air pollution, air quality, and you can combine this with analytics based on, let's say, actual pollution, but also people movement, weather information, temperature information, then what you can generate is not only a prediction of when you will have, again, air pollution within the city, but you can also model what happens if certain parameters are changed. So this means if I, for example, keep public transportation, or if I keep automobile transportation out of the city and I can move, for example, people to public transportation, this modeling means that I can create models to find out how to improve in the end the quality of life within cities. One last word on data sovereignty. What does data sovereignty means in times of open data? Where do I process data and where do I keep them in the end, and how can I, as a city, keep track of my data? I don't want to elaborate now on the cloud here because you might have heard about cloud infrastructures already. I want to jump to my last slide. Keeping track of data. You heard perhaps the word blockchain once. This is also, again, a very brand new technology. Many people link this to electronic currencies like Bitcoin. Blockchain is a very important new means of bookkeeping of data, because by having an open and distributed ledger, which means a book where you write down your data, you can be always sure that this data has not been tampered with and that it's always be available. If you want to learn more about these things, if you're interested on some of these new things, this is my only advertisement today. Visit us at our booth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you very much. We have still some time. We received some first questions. And so we could start with Martin, that you made a reference with this process of standardization. And there was a question about that in terms of if you could explain more what is going to be compared through these indicators and what these standards are going to be used for. But also I would say it would be interesting to know which are the main challenges that you see in terms of achieving these kind of commonalities among public actors, cities, because most of the value that can be extracted from the data depends on this kind of standardization, but at the same time we know that it's very challenging, the process. Another question is maybe mainly for Bertrand, that you made the reference, but it can be also for Andreas, because you both have been dealing with the notion of sovereignty and also with the notion of, with the challenge about the property of this data. So how we can really improve our understanding of the challenges that we are facing in terms of control and property and use of this data in terms of public actors, in terms of private citizens, in terms of companies that are all stakeholders in this process and that are struggling. And it's blocked, so I cannot see it. I would say that. Okay, let's start in this way, and then I will give a new question.
The difficult about standardization is that, of course, historically, each city has developed this data in its own way. So with its own definitions, what seems to be more or less similar, but in reality is different because the people that had made the definitions had a different interpretation of the specific data itself. And the good thing about the standardization is that you really make it comparable to each other. Then the data that you're having is getting a meaning because you can compare it with other cities and you can have a feeling of, okay, how am I doing compared to other cities globally? What can I learn from other cities? Because you can see as well, okay, which cities are doing better. So it gives you an insight what to basically learn from those cities. And on the other way, it gives you an insight as well, okay, what kind of terrains are you lacking behind to other cities and you have to put extra effort to.
Well, thank you for your question. In France and Toulouse, and it's extremely simple in fact, we have a law which is called law of Axel Lemaire, loi sur la République numérique, which permit at all the community, more than 3,015 inhabitants to have free data in their communities, and we have to make the law, and then we decide to work with companies, with private companies, which is great, like for instance NG, EDF, and Orange, and we're working because they have a strategy of open innovation and they have to make free of their data. So we're working with us. In the law, with the law, we permit it to mix and to have prospection between different data of the communities and of the public and private companies, and to make further usage and for the startups, for instance, and to have innovation in new territories. And for us, it's a good manner to make improve our innovation.
Yes, on the topic of data sovereignty, my approach is slightly different because actually we are talking much more about city data as data that is generated in the city to operate the city, and this is to a certain extent similar to the private data that each citizen gives away or doesn't want to give away, because let me make an example. A city also doesn't want, for example, to expose all their energetic behavior to their energy supplier, because this might end up in, let me quote unquote, adapted pricing towards that city, so that the city does not get the best prices for that purchase that they want to make. But on the other hand side, it also means a separation of data that is definitely to be going into the open data space, but also data that better should not go into the open data space, which is operational data of private, of critical infrastructure, for example. Nobody really wants to have the latest schedules of the police, that how the police is touring the city being publicly announced, and to separate that data and keep it separate. This is the challenge that the cities here have.
Martin, would you like to comment on this question or no? Okay. So to Martin, I would like to ask, because you made a reference which was interesting to the fact that sometimes these big companies that are collecting data about ourselves know more about ourselves, our relationship, than we ourselves know. And so this is an interesting consideration, because it's about how we are also changing through this huge collection of data, processing of data, the perception and the image and the self-understanding. No, this is something that also a French sociologist, Bruno Latour, is suggesting. No, that this is change in the datascape. He calls it datascape is going to impact the image, the understanding of ourselves and our world. So how would you describe the consequences that you can foresee about this process?
Yeah, okay. Well, I used to work on the Mesinfo project, and the first one day I get all my insurance data, for instance, and I say, wow, they know all that about me. But it was like quite impressive what an insurance can know about you. So can you imagine what Google can know about you, and can you imagine what it's quite impressive. And today we are people, well, at Tuba we are doing a lot of education on data, on what is personal data, what is big data and stuff like this, what is a smart city. And we realize that people are not really aware of this, and so we are trying to raise awareness in order to, because like in order to not click everywhere on internet and to be aware of there's an alternative solution. I don't know if you know, but today there's a lot of startup coming out and on privacy, for instance, and like why will buy an Alexa, an Amazon Echo while you have the voice assistant of Snips who is taking care of your data and is Snips respects your privacy, and also it's open source and it works better than Alexa. So we are trying to raise an awareness, and we are trying to say, okay, you can use Google, you can use Facebook, you can use whatever, but you may know that they will collect your data and do things with it. And we think that the balance is not equal between the company and the citizen.
Okay. And final question, because the time is running. I would ask you, each of you, to say, also thinking, for example, in short terms, because we are, for example, having a new regulation of the European Union the next year that is going to be introduced. Which would you think is the challenge that is arriving as next step for this area of innovation, this area of transformations, from the point of view of the actions you are undertaking and the perspective of your organization and of your role?
For me, as a Chief Information Officer, the most important task is to give transparency to citizens, to be able to, if they ask, okay, what kind of data do you have for me as citizen of The Hague, then we can answer the question. The problem is, at this moment, the data of the citizens are stored in many different applications and databases. So it's a hard task to be able to comply to that law, and that's basically the main task that we're standing for at the moment. But still, to be able to give that insight to citizens will give them more trust as well that we handle their data in a correct way.
Yes, for us as a provider of not only communications but also IT solutions, the main challenge will definitely be to provide offerings that enable city IT managers really to be compliant with the new regulations in order of handling private data in a really decent way. This is especially a challenge if you think of the fact that you are not allowed to bring private data anymore to servers outside of the European Union, and with offerings that the IT, that everybody of us in principle is utilizing, this is sometimes very hard to achieve.
And for us, as Andreas said before, data just is not oil, is not fuel. But what is good is when you mix data and when you create a service. And first, the GDPR is a good way to create innovative services in order to help the citizen in his everyday life, in order to improve his mobility in his city, in order to improve his energy consumption, things like this. So for us, it's a way to cross the data and create innovative services because, as I said before, my grandmother can't do anything with a JSON file.
For us, the most important thing, I think, is that you have to have your independence about your data in Europe. Because, as you say, we are with the GAFA, Google, and Amazon, and over, they are the king of the world. So if you want to be independent in Europe, you have to have a proper data. So we do open data in France, in other countries in Europe. We have to make this independence because it's, as I say often, data is the most important thing for your independence in the world. And when Google, for instance, want to see Open Data France, the association, because of the free data of transporting, of mobility, they ask us, we have to give you our data, and you say yes, but not on the form you want, because it's also our independence. So you have to be care and to be more vigilant for your independence in Europe about data.
Okay, thank you very much. The time is ending. I think we have tried to explore from different perspectives the many challenges that are opened by this transformation that have deal with the collection, processing, and extraction of information and value and power from the data. I would like to thank all the speakers for their contribution and to the audience for its participation. Thank you very much.